All right, so we're going to look at the answers for the elimination method practice test. And we're going to look at number one. So number one is a part one question where we add straight down. And so we read here, the blank variable will cancel out when I add straight down. So if I look here, which variable will add up to 0? 4 and -4 or 5 and 3? And we see here that 4 and -4, those add up to 0. So those are going to eliminate. The x variable will cancel out when I add straight down. So now I can just add everything else. 5y plus 3y, that's going to be an 8y. 51 and 5, add those together, that's going to be a 56. So now solving this, to get y by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And I'll get y equals 7. So check your answers there for 7 for y. And that's going to tell us what to substitute. I'm going to substitute the 7 in for y. Because I used to not know what x or y the answer was, but now I know that y has to be 7 because that's what we solved for. So y has to be 7. So now I can pick an equation. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to pick the top one because it has all positives. That's going to be a little bit easier. 4x plus 5y equals 51. And again, we used to not know what x or y, what those numbers were. But we do know, we figured out that y has to be 7. So I'm going to cross out y and plug in a 7. So it was 5 times y here, but we know that y has to be 7. So it's actually 5 times 7. So simplifying here, we get 4x plus 5 times 7 is 35, and that equals 51. And from here, it's just a simple two-step equation that we need to solve. So here's the first step. I want to get the 4x by itself. So I need to get rid of the plus 35. You get rid of plus 35 by doing a minus 35. Minus 35. Those cancel. So I get my 4x equals 51 minus 35. Remember, we got to borrow and regroup. We get a 6 there. 4 minus 3, that is 16. Last step, 4 times x. So to get rid of the timesing by 4, I'm going to do the opposite, which is dividing by 4. So go ahead and divide both sides by 4. And we get x equals 16 divided by 4 is 4. Check your answers there. X equals 4, y equals 7. All of the questions have a part 1 in it. You have to do a little bit of pre-work, and then it turns into a part 1. So if you can memorize or learn how to do part 1, you're going to be good for the test. Number 2, this one needs a little bit of work. We have to switch the signs like we talked about. So I need to switch the signs on which equation so that which variable will cancel out. Well, here, these numbers is a 1 and a 2, right? An invisible 1 and a 2. Those won't cancel out right now. But the 4 and 4 almost cancel out. The problem is that they're both positive. So I need to make one of them negative. I'm going to make the top one negative. So I can switch that sign if I switch all of the signs on that equation. So change that minus x to a plus x, change that -2 into a +2. So I need to switch the signs on the first equation so that it's going to help me cancel out my y variables. Now 4 minus 4, now those cancel. And now once I get these to cancel, it turns just into a part 1 problem. Add straight down. This is a 1x plus 2x is a 3x. 2 plus 4 is 6. I'm going to solve here. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3 to get x by itself. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Perfect. So I used to not know what x and y were. Now I figured out one of them. X is 2. So I'm going to pick an equation. And when I do, I'm going to substitute 2 in for x. I'm going to substitute 2 in for x. You could choose which one you want to use. I'm going to use the second equation. 2x plus 4y equals 4. 2x plus 4y equals 4. And again, I used to not know what either of those equal, but now I know I'm going to substitute 2 for x. So I'm going to cross out x, plug in a 2. 2 times 2 That's 4 plus bring down my 4y equals bring down my 4. So 4 plus 4y equals 4. From here, simple two-step equation. Simple two-step equation. I want to get the 4y by itself. So I need to get rid of that positive 4 in the front. I get rid of a positive 4 by doing minus 4, minus 4. Those 4's cancel. Bring down the 4y equals 4 minus 4 is 0. Interesting. So now I'm just going to solve it. I'm multiplying by 4, so the opposite would be to divide by 4. So y equals 0 divided by 4. That is 0. Check your answers there. 2 and 0. So we just had to switch the signs on that one. All right, that's 1 and 2. Now let's look at 3 and 4. This is a part 2 for number 3, and number 4 is a part 3 question. So part 2, we have to do a little bit of multiplying. So if you look here, I can actually, these don't cancel out right away. These don't cancel out right away. But if this was a 1, it is a 1. What do I multiply 1 by to get 4? I could multiply the top one by 4. Or if I look here, what can I multiply the y by? Negative 2 times what is 4? I can multiply this number, the negative 2, by 2. I'm actually going to pick the y variables because they're different signs, and that's going to be easier. So I'm going to multiply the second equation by 2 because 2 times 2, that equals 4. And that's going to cancel out my y variable. But if I multiply the middle term by 2, I have to multiply all of them by 2 on the bottom. So this equation becomes 4x times 2 is 8x, minus 2y times 2, that's a 4y, equals 4 times 2, which is 8. And I'm just going to copy down that other equation. X plus 4y equals 28. Good, go ahead and write those down. Now, once you do that, notice this is a part 1 problem because the variables are going to cancel out right away, and we add straight down and solve. So these ones cancel out right away. 8x plus invisible 1x is 9x. Equals 28 plus 8 is a 36. Only one step to solve this. Times by 9, so the opposite would be to divide by 9. These cancel, so you get x equals 36 divided by 9 is 4. I used to not know what x and y were. Now I figured it out halfway that x is 4. So I'm going to substitute 4 in for x. I can pick any equation I want. I'm going to pick that top one. X plus 4y equals 28. And I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that I'm going to substitute 4 for x because I used to not know x, but now I know that it is 4. So this is 4 plus 4y equals 28. I want to get the 4y by itself, so I need to get rid of the plus 4. I get rid of plus 4 by doing minus 4. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. These 4's cancel. So 4y equals 28 minus 4. 28 minus 4 is 24. So this is 4 times y. So to solve it, I'm going to get rid of timesing by 4. The way I get rid of it is by doing the opposite, which is divide by 4. Those cancel. Y equals 24 divided by 4 is 6. Check your answers there. We got a 4 and we got a 6. We just had to multiply the one equation because when we did, we were able to cancel out the y variables. That's a part 2 question. All right, and then the last one here, a lot more pre-work than the other ones. On this one, I get to pick which variable I want to cancel out. Do I want to cancel out the x or the y's? There's no right or wrong answer. These are positive and negative. These are positive and negative. So you can really cancel out either one. It doesn't matter. Let's cancel out the x variable. So that is a 5 and a 3. So the lowest common multiple The multiples of 3 here, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20. The first number they have in common is that 15. So that 15 is our lowest common multiple. So we want to turn both of the x variables, the coefficients, into 15s. Well, how do I change this negative 5x into 15? I have to multiply it by 3. But if I multiply one thing by 3, I have to multiply all of them by 3. And here's where you can use a calculator. Negative 15 times 3, that's a negative 5 times 3, it's a negative 15x. Minus 4 times 3, 4 times 3 is 12y, equals 14 times by 3, that's a 42. Check your answers there. Now this bottom equation, I still want to turn this into a 15. Well, it's a 3 right now, so I need to multiply it by 5. But if I multiply that one by 5, I have to multiply this one by 5 and this one by 5. So it was 3x times 5, which makes a 15x, plus 6y times 5. 6 times 5 is 30y, equals 6 times 5 is 30. So I multiplied the top equation by 3 and the bottom equation by 5. Multiply the top equation by 3, bottom equation by 5. Once we get here, which variables cancel out? The x ones, just like we wanted. That's what we were picking. And once you get that, this is just turns into a part 1 problem. Nice and easy. Variables are going to cancel out. 15 minus 15 is 0. Negative 12 plus 30. Well, those are different signs. So I'm going to subtract those numbers. I get 18. 30 is bigger and it's positive. So the 18 is positive, equals 42 plus 30. Those are both positive. So I can add those together and I get 72. Only one step. Just got to divide both sides by 18. So I'm going to get y equals 4. Y equals 4. So I'm going to substitute 4 for y. I used to not know what y was, but now I found out it is 4. Now we're going to pick an equation. Doesn't matter which one you pick. You can pick from these two or these two. I always pick from the original two because they're smaller, and I'm going to pick from the bottom one because it looks like they're all positive. So 3x plus 6y equals 6. And it's so important that you put it into the right variable. This is y equals 4. So I know that y is the same thing as 4. So I'm going to substitute it there. 3x plus 6 times 4 is 24 equals 6. Nice, easy two-step for us to end with. We want to get the 3x by itself, so I need to get rid of that plus 24, and I'm going to do that by minus 24. So put that on both sides. 24's cancel. 3x equals 6 minus 24. Well, those are different signs. The negative team scored more, and they scored 18 more points. So a negative 18, because 24 minus 6 is 18. Last step, we have a times by 3. The way you get rid of a times by 3 is by dividing by 3. Dividing by 3. So here we get x equals negative 18 divided by 3. Well, negative divided by a positive is negative. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So x is 6. All right, those are your two answers for 3 and 4. Make sure you have these not just done, but also study for the test that is coming up.